people of color, women, and students have suffered countless attacks by Donald Trump. But he can't help himself. He can do nothing but serve the interests of the ruling class, the owning class, therefore his own interests. Donald Trump was born and raised in a family that lived off of other people's labor. That's the only life he knows. Donald Trump has lived his entire life riding the shoulders of people who work harder than him. He only understands how to exploit Americans for his own gain, his own profit. Most Americans have nothing. In fact, most Americans have less than nothing. They're in debt. Most humans actually are in debt and have to work their entire lives away just to survive. Trump doesn't know what it's like to be hungry, cold, or fearful about tomorrow. Trump doesn't know what it's like to greet each new day of toil with dread and forlorning. Trump doesn't know what it's like to be an American. He doesn't know what it's like to be human. That's why Trump was selected by the ruling class to be the president, because they know he's perfect for the job. It wasn't millions of Americans coming together in democratic struggle to elect a working class president, which is what ought to happen. A small group of people who own half the world gathered together to discuss who would be the best puppet to put in charge of the state, in spite of working people, in complete disregard for democratic struggle. Make no mistake, it's the owners of the land, the factories, and the banks who own the state. And it's the state arms of oppression, the military, and the police they use to enforce their dictatorship. The ruling class sends a state arm all around the world to make it safe for investments. The U.S. has a long, publicly documented history of invading peaceful countries, toppling democratically elected governments, and seizing land, strategic resources, and cheap labor for themselves. In 1960, the U.S. CIA launched Operation Condor, which is one of the most ruthless and sweeping terrorist campaigns the world has ever seen. Its aim was to sow discord and chaos among the civilian populations by arming and training right-wing death squads and paramilitary groups, eradicating left-wing organizing groups and labor unions, replace democratically elected leftist governments with fascist dictatorships, and penetrate those countries' markets with investors. The cost in human lives and suffering were immeasurable, but all the children in graves and all the parents in mourning are just externalities to American companies. No price is too high to pay to protect your own profits, even if it's in someone else's blood. The chaos and unrest and poverty that exists in South America today have been imposed upon it and are lasting effects by U.S. involvement over the past 50 years, and even before that. Even in Mexico, the violence carried out by the drug cartels and gangs is fueled by the U.S.'s repressive drug policies. And is there any doubt of collusion between the DEA and the drug cartels across the border? If I was only interested in making money and I didn't care if anyone else lived or died, here's what I would do. I would introduce repressive legislation that outlawed drug use, enforce draconian laws and punishments, confiscate the contraband, and fine the drug users. Then I would sell the contraband back to the highest bidder, only to have it end up again on the streets in the hands of helpless addicts. Be sure of one thing, the U.S. does not do anything that makes them less money. Everything the U.S., the ruling class, and Trump does is to make a profit. Every attack on immigrants, working people, women, and students is in one way or another making someone a huge profit. War doesn't help us. The wall doesn't help us. The travel ban doesn't help us. Nothing Trump does in that office is going to be good for Americans.
Woo!
The only thing that can slow them down is democratic struggle. The only thing that can stop them is the oppressed classes coming together to say enough is enough.
Woo!
We have to make our voices heard and say no when they ask for more blood. Only by educating ourselves, agitating our neighbors, and organizing our communities can we struggle successfully against corporate power. So don't let this be a one-time thing. Keep protesting, keep organizing, and keep struggling together for democracy. Thank you.